Okay, so let's talk about uncertainties. Every time you make a measurement, doesn't matter what it is, it could be of a length, it could be reading of a voltmeter, whatever, there is an uncertainty. Now that makes sense because there's no such thing as a perfect instrument that can tell you exactly what the height of something is or what the current might be. So there's always an uncertainty, okay? And you'll typically see it written, for example, something like this, 1.65 meters plus minus 0.01 meters, something like that, okay? Now this is the value or the reading, and we call this the absolute uncertainty. So I'm going to abbreviate uncertainty to UNC a lot in these videos. So there we go, that's the basics, definitions of an uncertainty. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples and we'll see how we can get the absolute uncertainty. Let's say I'm making a measurement of distance. This is just an example. So I'll place the ruler here and let's say I put a piece of paper next to the ruler. Now I want to measure where the edge of this piece of paper is. Okay, so of course you just read on the ruler where is the piece of paper, and you might see something like 7 centimeters. Okay, and you're going to need to add an absolute uncertainty. So what would that be? Typically for analog instruments, now analog is something with continuous values like this ruler. For analog instruments, typically we take the uncertainty to be half of the smallest increment. Now what do I mean by the increment? Well, I'm just going to zoom in over on the right side here. If I zoomed in on the ruler and we had 0, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter and so on, you can see the smallest measurement, the smallest distance between any two numbers is 1 centimeter. Okay, that's my increment. So half of the smallest increment is 1 centimeter, so we would have here something like that. There we go. Okay, now what about digital instruments? Let's say I take something like a digital voltmeter. Okay, so here's my voltmeter and I've connected it up to some circuit, and on the voltmeter it says 7.04 volts. Okay, so my reading is 7.04 volts. Now for digital instruments, the smallest number that you can read off this display would be 0.01 volts. That is the smallest digit that I can measure off there. And for digital instruments, we just take that as our uncertainty. Okay, so there we go. In this case, 0.01 volts. Okay, now this comes up quite a lot. Every time you make a measurement in your IA or in any situation like this, you're going to need to state the uncertainty. Okay, it's vital for your IAs. There's a whole part of it that requires you to do this. Okay, so that's the definition with the absolute uncertainty. How to get the uncertainty when you're measuring with an analog instrument and with a digital instrument.